I work in the food industry because I like to cook. But even more, I love to eat. Anyone here likes to eat? Yeah? Okay, all right. We all love to eat. And actually, how many here also thinks of eating not just simply simple sustenance, but also how we connect with new people, with new places, with other cultures. It's a very powerful idea, this belief we have in... yeah, sorry. All right. Attention back here. No. It is a very powerful idea we have, this belief that food is a connector, and that the table is this safe place where we can be transformed. There's history, there's culture, there's creativity. And actually, a few years ago, in about 2015, the National Restaurant Association surveyed diners across America. And they found that 6 out of 10 consumers were really excited and very proud of the fact that they tried lots of different cuisines from different countries. And among those top cuisines is Vietnamese food. I'm really excited about Vietnamese food being more popular and being something that people like to eat. And it brings me a lot of joy to see people eating some of my favorite foods. And this is a Yelp page from a San Francisco restaurant. And as you can see, there are some foods that are pretty typical of Vietnamese restaurants, and some of you may have had them. There on this menu are, there's soup noodles, there's also noodles that are stir-fried, there's dry noodles, served in a salad, there's curries, there are other stir-fries, there are clear soups, and there are stews, like rich soups. There are deep-fried little foods that you eat when you drink. There are the rice paper rolls, the things that we're very famous for, and they have them fresh as well as fried, and among other things. And so it's super fun. Everyone gets to order exactly what they want, and they get to have their favorite, or they get to try new things. And even now, as sharing becomes more popular, you can put it all in the middle of the table. And everyone gets to taste a little bit, right? So you get to try all of this. And it's great. Here's the thing. So some of these are breakfast foods, some are lunch, some are dinner, some are very festive, celebratory foods, some are just, quick beer food. They're all from different regions of Vietnam. And they're all on one restaurant menu. And it's something that it's very, very, very challenging for restaurants in the US to specialize. This was my favorite place before they put that sign up even. And don't get me wrong, pho is great. I love pho. But there are literally hundreds of dishes that don't see the light of day in Vietnam because we have become very used to a small group of iconic dishes. And we expect them to be at every single restaurant. Like, can you imagine going into every single restaurant in the US and expecting there to be a hamburger on the menu? So this restaurant just wants us to set expectations. You don't want people to get upset when they walk in. If you did walk in, if you sat down, this is a kind of meal that you would get. And this is one of my favorite dishes. I have a lot of favorite dishes, but this is one of them. And it's in a class of dishes called bun hoi. The ingredients have been selected and marinated and prepared in the kitchen. They come out on all these different platters. And it's cooked at the table. So someone at the table will prepare it and share it. And you wrap it with your hands and you dip. And there's a lot of different dips and a lot of different little ingredients that you can add in there. This is actually something that's hard to find in the US, a restaurant that specializes in this. It's not something that you can order just by yourself and have at your own little place setting. It takes over the whole table. So everyone at the table has to agree to eat this one dish. It's hard for a kitchen to do lots of other specialties in addition to this because of the cold storage space required for all of those vegetables. The menu mix is really challenging for restaurants, and I would love it for us to be able to have space in this city, even in a place like San Francisco, more restaurants like this that can open and stay open. I'm here today to enlist your help in getting us as diners to create space for more diversity. Not diversity on one menu, but diversity in the greater landscape of restaurants. To have you get a sense of how important this is and why I even care about this, why I care what you order, right? Let me invite you to a meal with my family, which I really wish I could do. I'm going to do it through photos for you. This is outside my family's home in Vietnam. It's my grandmother's death anniversary, and it happens once a year. We get together and we have this special meal and we remember her. It's like a birthday, except you're dead, right? And as you can see, it's my cousin. It's my cousin, and she's helping set the table with those little dipping sauces. And there's a dipping sauce at every setting for everyone to be able to adjust their own food. And a caterer has been hired to bring in some specialties, but everyone helps out. Everyone chips in. There's no sense of like back of the house, front of the house, client, vendor. And some of my aunties and some neighbor are going to contribute their own food. And they all knew my grandmother, so they want to kind of share food with her and with us. And you can see one of my aunts is arranging food, and these vegetables will be cooked at the table too. So there's a sense of people planning together, working together, as well as later we'll be cooking together. My grandmother has a setting too. In fact, she eats first. And we light the incense, and we put out her favorites. And this is a bigger spread than she usually gets. It's a feast day, but we include her favorites, like bitter melon filled with pork is one of her favorite dishes. And so we light the incense, and then we have to wait for the incense to burn down before we eat. And so it gives her time to come back and to join us. And so during that period, we're just sitting around and talking and catching up. We share stories about her. We talk and meet new people. And in our family, we sort of accept that like once incense is halfway down, she's kind of had enough time. And so we can start. And if you're really sneaky, you can use really short incense sticks. So we get to eat finally. And there are mini courses. And this one, Ben, who is actually a driver that was hired to bring some family members up from Saigon, which is about an hour away. He has a seat at the table too. We don't expect him to sit in the car by himself until the event is over. And he and another guest are cooking food for the table. We've all just met each other. And this is not hot pot where you cook your own food. Those two have volunteered to cook this course for everyone. And then they'll also serve it to us once it's ready. And a hot pot here, which is supposed to be a communal meal, can often become this big buffet. Everyone goes up and you get your shrimp and your fish ball and the sliced lamb that you want. And you sit down and you keep track of your cube of tofu. And there's like 5 different kinds of noodles in there. And it's just so this is communal cooking in a very different way, where it's like really it's not that everyone has their own food that they're tracking. It's that it's being prepared at the table, and it's this continuous arc of the food changing. There's been a selection of the menu. There's been some prep in the kitchen. It comes to the table. It gets cooked by people who decide, well, this is how. And you can suggest. You can say, oh, I kind of like my beef rare. But you need to trust the people, right? And they're not trained professionals cooking for you. They're community members. But you're going to trust each other. And if you're the one cooking, you need to trust yourself that whatever you serve, that the people are going to like. And remember, it's really not about the food sometimes, right? It's about who's at the table with you. And then we all have our little sauce things, and so we get to adjust the flavor for ourselves. So even if I'm eating by myself, this is a quick meal that I had on the sidewalk in between errands in Saigon. Vietnamese food is a very hands-on. And actually, one of the first things I learned when I came to the U.S. is don't touch your food. Don't eat with your hands. And hamburgers, hot dogs. There's like s'mores, just fried chicken, like food you eat outside, informal food. But food that when you're sitting at the table, it's a real meal. And use your fork and spoon. So for a Vietnamese person, South Vietnam in particular, that eating with their hands is a huge deal. It's part of shaping the food. And there's also an adjustment there. So I think there's sliced banana, sort of a slightly unripe banana, and it adds a little bitterness. There's some sweetness there. there's crispness, and there's a little pungency. And so you wrap the little roll. And I might even decide as the roll is on the way to my mouth, I might decide, I want this bite to have a little bit more chili, or I want a little bit more garlic with this roll. And so I'm constantly adjusting the food. So there hasn't been this decision made that this is the way this thing tastes, either in the kitchen or even at the table. The food is changing. Food is a living thing. It changes with each one of us. And this isn't it. And I'm even talking about Vietnamese food because it, I have a lot of pictures of Vietnamese food. But and also something that is very popular, and I see people eating it. And it literally hurts my heart sometimes when I'm in a restaurant and I see someone eating like a bánh xèo with a fork and knife all by themselves. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what you shared with the table. You're supposed to be like dancing with your fingers. You're supposed to be wrapping it and adjusting it, and dipping it, and getting your face all greasy and messy. And so I'm kind of here and I want to see these dishes on the menus. But if we become very particular about how food should look, if we think creativity is only something that happens in the kitchen and not at the table, then this is something that we are limiting the kind of foods that can happen in restaurants. And most people 80% of people experience food and Vietnamese food in restaurants. So it's something that is dear to my heart. And this is an issue with other cuisines, from India to Indonesia, Senegal to Syria. And so as we expand our palates, as we expand our plates, include new ingredients, new flavors, new dishes, I implore you to also go out and learn how to incorporate how they're made. And I had two close friends who this week were really sweet, and they confessed to me that when they first had this dish, that it was a mess. They were in the restaurant, they had no idea how to do this. And usually you get the bánh cuông, it's like the fresh rolls, they're made for you, right? They come all neatly rolled for you and cut in half even. Or the new fast casual restaurants where you get to watch someone making it for you as you go down the line. And it wasn't until the second or the third time back to the restaurant that they were able to figure it out, and I want to assure you that even though I was born Vietnamese, I didn't know how to do that either. I had to go through a learning process. Everyone learns how to eat. Everyone learns how to manipulate food, to flavor it, and to share it. So remember, when you go out exploring food, keep it simple. Make it a shared experience. And touch your food, please. And I assure you that what you will learn will be delicious. Thank you.